Hi everyone, it's Laura from Grading Company, and today I'm going through the second tutorial for your June subscription box. You will have your little tiny maple leaf. I just thought it would be a cute little accent to add to your sign. It's really hard to design stuff for Canada Day that's not tacky in some way, so I wanted to keep it a nice classic neutral design. It will be able to, you can set it in a tiered tray if you want to, or you can, set it aside alongside your sign. Either way, it's a really simple project, and we're just going to get started on that. So your edges will be quite rough, so if you want to ahead of time, you can just go in there and kind of round those a little bit. I will sand later as well, so you can do that. You'll want to take your sandpaper that's the 120 grit, the rougher one, and you can just come in there and smooth some of that out. And if you don't want to, you can just leave it and get it afterwards. So we're going to stain both sides, and we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to do some painting. Now, if you don't want, so for me, I'm going to dry brush it so I can still see a little bit of the stain, and I'm going to dry brush the red on top. If you want more of a solid red, then I would suggest don't stain it, because what the stain will do is it'll kind of deepen the red underneath, like it won't make it quite as bright. And I like that because with this is a lighter base. So when you paint with red, with a lighter base, it could take you good 2 to 3 coats to get a nice solid red color. So depending on what you're looking for on your design, you can do it either way. But I'm going to just do a light dry brushing over top, just so it has more of a rustic feel to it. But anyways, take your stain, dip your brush in there, and then just start wiping it on. And then just, whoops, wipe it off. I'm going to do the flat sides first, because once I get into that, the edge, it's going to chew it up, my brush, pretty well. So there, give that a wipe. And then just go in there. Now you'll have to watch your edges, because we're going to paint over it anyway. So just kind of blend that out so it doesn't leave, a darker edge. You're going to paint it anyways, but you don't want it too dark. And then just go all the way around and cover those. Like, squish your brush in there. You really, just because it's the rough edge, you just might have to work at it just a little bit more to get that stain in there. Okay, so that is done. This won't take long to dry. So once that is dry, I'll come back and we'll prep for the next part on that. So you can either just stand it up so it gets both sides to dry a little faster. Now, in the first video, I forgot that I was going to add stands with your sign, so I didn't show you that you needed to stain these. So these will be in your box, and I've already stained these, and you can stain them at the same time as you do your sign. If you catch that, or if you watch this video, you'll notice then you'll need to stain these, and you'll just stain them and then sand them, and then you'll be able to stand up your sign, or you can hang your sign on the wall, whatever is best for you. All right, I'll be back in a little bit, guys. Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'm back. This is now dry, and so you can take your sandpaper, this would be your 400 grit sandpaper, and give it a sand. if you're dry brushing, sometimes I leave a little bit of texture to it because then it makes it nice for the brush to grab a hold of, to help leave some of that detail behind. Okay, so now depending on what you're doing, if you are painting, just know that you only have so much paint that we gave you, but it should still be enough if you do nice thin layers. All right, so with the dry brushing, for those who've never done it before, you're going to need your 1-inch brush, and then grab your paint, and so give it a dip. You don't need much. Take most of it off, just like a dry brush. Make sure the edges don't have anything wet, and then just proceed to paint. So when you're doing it, let me do that again really slowly. You want your brush to get some movement before you start, because if you just start with your brush on there and go back and forth, then you could have some lines showing where you have started. So this can take a while to build up your color, but then you have total control over, you know, creating that weathered look. And as I really run out of paint, then that's when I really push on the brush and feather that color on. Now you can see with the stain underneath how it creates more of a darker red tone compared to the actual red color. So just remember that before you decide on what you would like. So you'll do that on one side, and then you can go ahead and do it on the other. So I'm just going to continue doing it and not talk, and you can just watch me. So you do want to work in the direction of the grain. So you definitely want to be working up and down as you do this and not side to side. Okay, so that is almost dry. So I'm just going to flip it over and do the same thing. As you can see. You can also turn your brush sideways instead of just the flat way, especially to add just smaller details and lines. Now, even though there's not much paint on your brush, just maybe make sure you're working in an area that, you know, it can splatter a little bit, because even though there isn't a lot, it can leave little bits everywhere. And if you don't want paint on your hand, you can just wear some gloves. Okay, so I'm just looking at both sides, making sure that they look fairly close. So now I'm going to come in here and do my edges. Now, as I do this, just watch that you might just have to come out and feather the other side in case you get some buildup of paint on your edge. Just come back and maybe feather that out. And if you have a really older brush, Even that might work better for the edges, just because you are going to get fairly rough with it because you're just trying to do it dry and you need to force it into that wood. So, all right. You might get yourself an arm workout with this one, but all right, so I'm fine there. So just check your edges, make sure you got them all coming in from both directions. Okay, so if you're doing it just fully painting and not dry brushing, then you'll just want to do like your edges and like your one side first, let that dry, turn it around, then do the other side, and just keep going back and forth like that, sanding between each coat until you get the color that you want. I'm gonna let this dry and see if I want another coat. I'm not sure. Now, because I added this project after I thought of the sign, if you want your reds to look the same on your sign as you do your maple leaf, you might want to do the same technique on the reds. So the little dots and the red of the maple leaf on the sign, you could always stain first, and then you can use your makeup sponge to paint those. That way you keep that same depth of red. If you just end up painting them and this, then just continue painting the one on the sign as normal, as like the video. But had I done this one first, I probably would have stained the one on the sign so that they would have looked the same, but that's fine. It won't bother me too much. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna leave it because I can sit here for quite some time and do this. But yeah, so let it dry and then you're gonna come back. Now reds take longer to dry. They might feel, it's dry on the outside, but it can, once you start sanding it, it can kind of feel tacky. Your brighter, darker colors always take longer to dry underneath, so it just might feel, like I said, a little tacky, but you can still give it a sand, or you can leave it 24 hours and let it do a really good dry, and then you can come in and sand the edges, sand the front. I'm going to distress the edges so it looks a little bit more worn away and defines the shape of the leaf. You can do however you would like, and I look forward to seeing your guys' projects on the group page. I always love seeing how you guys interpret them for your own space. So yeah, keep sharing. Love to see more on there, and I'll see you guys again next month. All right, thanks guys.